Hey, welcome back. So now we're going to start getting into things here. I'm sure many of you have observed artists at work or have seen an artwork that has made you think, how did they do that? You may have even made the comment, I can't even draw a stick figure. Well, the main difference between artists and almost everyone else is that artists see things differently. An artist, either naturally or by training, sees things as a series of basic shapes. Sure, they see the object as a whole like everyone else does, but their minds are able to break it down into the very basic of shapes. Now, what exactly do I mean by that? Well, let's take a look at some examples. We'll begin with something simple. This vase for starters. Most people would just start trying to draw the whole thing. Artists break it down into simpler shapes first and then add the details later. So here we have a circle and an upside down triangle. The curves of the neck can be added in afterwards, along with the ellipse for the top opening of the vase. The same thing goes with this leaping tiger and this giraffe. Most people would see either one and think, oh my god, there's the neck and the stripes and the tail spots. I can't. How am I supposed to draw that? Forget all the details and look for the basic shapes. To help you out, let's look at this in silhouette. For the tiger, I'd go with a large rectangle for the body, a smaller square shape for the head, and more rectangles for the legs. For the giraffe, an egg shape or an ellipse for the body, a long skinny triangle for the neck, a couple of upside down triangles for the legs, along with some long skinny rectangles, and a small upside down triangle for the head. Markings on the fur, facial features, ears, horns, antlers, etc., those things are added later, but they can also be broken down into simpler shapes that make it easier to handle. Now let's try this one of two male bodies. We'll simplify it with the silhouette, a couple of ellipses for the head. The guy on the left has a neck, so we'll put a small rectangle in there. Ellipses for the upper torso, and a couple of squares or rectangles for the body, and a series of rectangles and squares for the arms and hands. Now we'll look at a few still life images. I'll pause in between each one to give you time to ID the basic shapes yourself. Take your time and look only for the simplest shapes that you can see. The camera is pretty easy. We have a rectangle and the lens is a circle, which is pretty obvious. Little knobs and buttons on the top can be broken down into a series of squares and a trapezoid. The still life on the right, the globe is pretty obvious. There's a couple of ellipses, a series of long skinny rectangles, a large square, and another long skinny rectangle. So how did you do? Let's try one more with this architecture. I'm not really sure where this building is, but it's perfect for identifying basic shapes.
So I see a bunch of obvious rectangles and squares. The tops of each of these column-like things can be broken down into smaller squares. The domes are all circles. And the little spires on top are a series of squares and triangles. Some added stuff on the roof. And all of those arches can be broken down into more rectangles and circles. And you can kind of see how everything can just be broken down into basic shapes.
Now here's where I want you to practice, and this is where those magazine clippings will come into play. Find at least 3 to 5 images, identify the main basic shapes in each image, and outline them with your red marker. Feel free to post them for feedback. Have fun, and we'll see you in the next video.